The newest addition to the Giannis Immortality shoe line is here, and I gotta say, the threes might be the best ones yet. Let's check them out.
I have seen it all now. Giannis, I'll tell you something about what we just saw. Steel slam, Giannis out of the Kubo.
Describe that dunk.
Wow, unbelievable. Sweet. You don't have to describe someone.
Like it or love it, it's double or nothing. You ain't getting money, then you bugging. Damn fat, you know I'ma hug it. Lows by the truck. Up the budget, cashing it in, damn I'm a bucket.
Welcome back to our channel, guys. I'm excited for this shoe review today. We've been having a bunch of people clamoring for the Giannis Immortality 3 breakdown. Here we are to give that to you. But I mean, we're going to be looking at the cushion, support, the traction, just anything that has to do with how the Giannis Immortality 3 plays on the court. But of course, I mean, I always like to break down some of the basic aspects for you too. We'll start off with the retail price, and these did get a little, actually not this year. They're going to retail for $85. The price jump came from the first model. The ones to the twos went to $85. I think the ones were $80. These stayed at that same $85 retail price. Giannis Immortality is the budget-friendly line for Giannis. So he has the Zoom Freak. You've probably seen it before. The Zoom Freak 1 all the way up to the 5s now. I just put in those. The Zoom Freak line, I don't know, you could almost kind of relate it to the Giannis Immortality line in my opinion, because the Zoom Freaks, they're pretty good, but whenever you're comparing them to the PGs, to the KDs, to the, LeBrons and stuff like that, they don't really tend to stack up the greatest. I kind of argue the same thing for the Immortality line, when you're comparing it to, the budget-friendly line from the KD Trays, the LeBron Witness line. They kind of stack up with the Kyrie Flytraps, but I mean, they also just aren't that special to me so far. But like I said in the intro, the threes did kind of start to turn the tide. What they didn't change up though is, basically the look. You got the same reverse swoosh that's going to be on the side there. Basically, a similar setup to the Giannis Immortality 2s. I guess they did make the reverse swoosh a little bit more like defined, a little bit more pronounced, changed up the angle, but it is going to be a strikingly, similar look to the Giannis Immortality 2s from last year. And that's typically how it tends to go. If you look at all the LeBron Witness models, they'll maybe change the design up slightly every 2 to 3 years, but it's a budget-friendly line meant to be more cost-effective. So I don't think they put too much into the details just based off of what I'm seeing. So now we can go ahead and start to look at, more of just like the cushion. We'll start to talk about the performance aspects. And they did something that Nike just came out and said. One of my knocks on the Giannis Immortality line, they haven't been that comfortable. Nike came out and said that they just straight up made the midsole foam softer than the Giannis Immortality 2s. And that's how it feels. Like they made it to be more flexible underfoot to give you that experience like whenever you're sprinting and filling the lanes. That's more of like Nike's verbiage for that. But I mean, as far as the actual comfort goes, they did exactly what they set out to do. The cushion, it was a major flaw in like the Immortality line, in my opinion. Like it was always more responsive. I know that guards tend to like that. You want to have a quick first step, but honestly, I tend to like more comfortable shoes. In the Giannis Immortality line, it really wasn't that. That being said, this is the first shoe that whenever I get my shoes in, I tend to try and play 5-on-5 in them or something like that to get a real feel of how they feel whenever you're performing in them. Not just like the breakdown and the workout and stuff. The Giannis Immortality 1 and 2s, I bring that up to say this. The ones and the 2s couldn't even get through a full 5-on-5 in them. They started to hurt, my feet were getting sore, had to swap them out. Those ones required more breaking time than these ones do. Like the Giannis Immortality 3 is the first time I've been able to just straight up get through 5-on-5s. I actually did switch the shoes, but it's just because I couldn't hit a shot. So had to switch up the energy. I was playing in Giannis Immortality, so I don't know what I was shooting threes for anyways. That being said, the cushion is like a definite step in a positive direction. I don't want to sway you too much to the other side of the spectrum and make you think it's going to be a super, super comfortable shoe, because when it comes to budget-friendly lines, his shoe has been right there with the Flytraps for just not really being, a lot of padding underneath your foot. Not the most comfortable feel. They did kind of, mark up towards those KD Trays, some of those other more comfortable budget-friendly lines kind of in that price range. That's something that I needed to see, because whenever the shoe's not comfortable, I just don't tend to recommend it. I don't tend to want to play in it. But now the next thing we'll look at real quick is like the durometer reading. These were reading at 39.5, and you can kind of see on the scale, it's just a tool that we use to see how firm or stiff how stiff or soft that midsole is, I guess would be the correct way to say that. But I mean, 39.5, we didn't get the reading from last year, but that's up a decent amount from the ones. That doesn't really tend to translate how they play all the time, especially since they said they softened up the midsole and the reading was much higher than the ones, at least, and the ones weren't comfortable either. We're kind of going down a rabbit hole now. We'll kind of get back on track. And the next thing I want to talk about with this shoe specifically is what's been the highlight of it year after year so far. Stays there again. And that's the support and just basically just like the model construction on this shoe. So, I mean, the Giannis Immortality 3s, the 2s, and the 1s have all had the same fundamental structure. Like the midsole looks similar. You got the squiggly lines, the whole feel, the way that your foot kind of rests in the shoe. It's been the same year after year after year. And that's for a good reason. Like there's been no issues. There's been no reason to need to correct that. So the support is like specifically made out of this synthetic midfoot strap that helps keep your foot steady whenever you're trying to move from side to side. And you see Giannis, he's always Euro stepping through the lanes. So if he ever does play in these or train in these, because you obviously only see him really wear like the Zoom Freak line, his signature line, whenever he's performing on the court. If he's training in these, that makes sense. That checks out, because if he's Euro stepping, you're going to want a very supportive model. And support's been the highlight, like I said, just end over end. It's been one of the main things to focus on about this model. But another thing that I love about this shoe line is just how light it is. Like the Giannis Immortalities, you go back to 3 years ago, those weighed 344 grams. The Giannis Immortality 1, straight out the box, the lightest shoe that I've ever played in. Then they switched it up with the 2s. They weighed a little bit more at 372, which is still insanely light. This year, they're just a touch under that at 370 grams. That's what the Giannis Immortality 3 weighs, and that's going to be for a size 10.5. Still ridiculously light. And the thing is, whenever you got those light models, that's when support is supposed to be the biggest. Like it's supposed to be in flux, in question. Like you're not supposed to really get guaranteed support from a lighter model because you know there's not as much going into the shoe. Not an issue. This model is super supportive. They just reinforce it on the upper. Of course, you have those straps. But another thing that they do is, if you look at these from the bottom or even from the top, you can see that you have a noticeable just like protrusion coming out from the shoe. And they just call that an outrigger. And that's more so just like to give you better support, better balance, and just kind of brace your foot whenever you're making those movements. So whenever it comes to support or anything along those lines, if that's something that you prioritize, that's about the only thing I would have been recommending you for on the Giannis Immortality line so far. Like cushion, like I said, it's lacked a little bit. Support, it's been amazing year after year. So that actually just leaves us one more category to cover, and that is the traction. And that's more similar to the cushion than it is going to be the support. The traction's just been mediocre kind of for the last few years. They haven't done anything to the pattern. One thing that basically all Giannis models have is they'll put like his family names on there, or like where he's from, like Greece. You know, he's from Greece. They'll put like different cool like characteristics on that for his shoes. I like that touch, especially on the budget-friendly line. You don't see that, you know, a ton. But back to the traction, that actually falls in line with the support this year. Like the traction is going to be a major step up on this shoe. And like I said, I wasn't able to really recommend the Immortality line because of the cushion and the traction. Whenever you have two of the main three key components for a basketball shoe kind of on the worst end of the scale than the positive side, then I'm not going to be able to fully recommend it. But they cleaned that up and the support's still there. But the traction was a noticeable thing that needed to be fixed. It's there, and it's got some squeak. We did our squeak test. They were making some noise on the court. They didn't collect as much dust as they did. Like, I'm telling you, this shoe just all around seems like it took a step forward, except for the support and the weight, because whenever that's top notch, you don't really have to do anything with it. So I'll finish off with the sizing here, and they leave you about a half a thumb's width for the length. That's how I tend to like it. But this is a slightly more narrow model. You can even tell just looking at it straight on. It's going to be a little bit more of a narrow fit. That's consistent with, you know, the Immortality 1 and the 2s. But overall, wrapping up the Giannis Immortality 3s for the official letter grade, I'm actually pretty pumped to be able to give this a B+. A B+ letter grade is going to be my stamp for the Giannis Immortality 3. And that's kind of factoring it into a budget-friendly shoe. You'll see that I've maybe graded like the Luka 2s or something as a C, and you're going to be like, what? Now's a good time to clear that up. Like budget-friendly shoe, B+. $85 shoe, B+. $150 shoe, C-, D. That's not what we're factoring in here. This is a really solid shoe for the price, $85. They made some improvements, and that's what I was looking for. The cushion, it's getting better. Like I said, might have pumped it up a little too much. It's not the most comfortable shoe, but it's not the most uncomfortable shoe like it used to be. So I love that. Support, weight, still super great. And the traction, that rhymed, I like that. And the traction's super nice too. I mean, it came along for the ride. Not a lot of dust collecting, which is important because I feel like the 2s couldn't grab the floor. It felt like the only thing that they were doing is just picking up dust. So it was just like, it was not a fun playing experience for me. All that being said, Giannis Immortality 3 seems to be a lot better, so I am going to have to be able to recommend them as a budget-friendly model at $85. So go ahead and grab yourself a pair. We're going to have a link on screen, or leave something down below in the bio. But that's going to wrap up our shoe review on the Immortality 3. Feel free to give us a like and a sub if you liked the video, but until next time, peace.